Welcome to the Kelli Christina Talk Show, Thought Leaders of Our American Industries. The next couple episodes will be dedicated to some dynamic leaders in various industries. We'll have the opportunity to talk about careers, passions, challenges, and goals with some amazing leaders. Today, I would like to welcome Chris Lee, my personal business coach, business consultant, and famous author of the book Less is More. Welcome, Chris Lee.
Thanks for having me, Kelli.
Back at you. So Chris Lee is already going to shake things up a little bit today, change things around, and he'd like to start with some interview questions for me. So go right ahead, Chris.
You know, I love a good disruption, Kelli. So let's get started then by asking you, which will be a little weird on your own show, but having you tell us who you are.
So Chris, I'm the CEO and founder of KD Staffing, founded in 2007. We staff hospitals nationwide and work on a permanent level with medical professionals. I'm also founded Making a Difference, KDC Making a Difference company in 2018, which is of course books and public speaking. So I'm a best-selling author, I'm a public speaker, I'm an entrepreneur, and I wear a lot of hats.
Thank you for that. So I know you have a lot of good business advice and topics to get into, which we absolutely will in a minute. But first, I'd like to talk about recently you had an intensive coaching session with me. And I'd love to hear your thoughts about that coming out of it. Sound good?
Fantastic, Chris.
Okay. So one of the big things that we had you do was spend some time thinking deeply about your MTP, which is massively transformative purpose. That expression originally came from Peter Diamandis, but it's something I absolutely love and use because it makes you think deeply about your higher purpose and calling. So why don't you start by telling us your MTP?
Great question. Chris, when I think about mission statements in general, I think of when you're a business owner from year to year as you age and grow, your mission statements might change up a little bit. And then I also think of, we always have, or leaders often have, we have a mission statement for our companies. We have a mission statement for ourselves personally. It's something confident, short, and if I were talking about a mission statement for KD Staffing, I would probably say accelerate the transition into new successful jobs. Or I would think of the mission statement, successfully facilitate the interview and onboarding process and set people up for success when I think of KD Staffing. Now, when I think of myself as an individual, my mission statement is going to be way different. My mission would be more of, hey, go above and beyond, whether you're succeeding or failing in life. And then also, if you're not succeeding or failing in life, then you're not living life.
Absolutely. So first of all, yes, it's good to be able to have both a business and personal one. Sometimes there's a lot of overlap. There usually is because it's what you are as a person. But also, I think you would agree, it takes some real thought to really get into the essence of what your mission is. So thank you for that. So I'd also like to ask, in addition to that, what other takeaways, what were your biggest takeaways from the session? What are things that you might have gotten clarity on coming out of that?
So Chris, I absolutely loved your session. Your session was more about mindset. And my favorite part would have been the 3 wish list that you had me put together. What do you have current day? Who do you want to be? And then where are you going to go? And I liked this mindset lesson because it really is easy from every day or every week to get into this grind where we forget our long-term goals and passions. So it brought me back to the table, and it's more of a vision on what we have for our future.
Thank you. Yeah, the mindset, as you've said, is really the most powerful part of coaching often. The strategies are good, but the mindset is what really gets you forward and taking you to the next level. So thank you for that. So I know you're a coach in your own right, but tell us how you feel about coaching and why you might recommend it to someone else.
Fantastic. We're going to talk about coaching. I believe the stronger leaders of the world actually they don't have just one coach. Sometimes you have a multitude of bosses that you answer to. And coaching, when I think of coaching, I think of life coaching, business coaching, public speaking coaching. There's a lot of coaching out there. For anybody that wants to aspire to go to that next professional level, or they're very focused on bettering themselves or bettering their team, they will use coaches. Now, magically, because I've had a life coach for 18 years, and I've had a public speaking coach, and I've had a business coach, something over the years happens, and you transform into a coach yourself. And so, I would say that 20% of my own week is life coaching people on life and problems and relationships. And then, of course, business coaching. I've got a pro like yourself, but I've got those entrepreneurs and business owners that I'll coach myself. So I'm 150% bought in.
Okay, glad to hear. Glad to hear. Also, I might have to walk away. So thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that. So let's move on and get into some of the business aspects. So I know that you have been in business for some time, and you've gone through your share of, actually more than your share, of business challenges, as well as some personal life challenges. And I know you wrote about some of those in your most recent book. So out of all of that challenge and adversity, what are some of the most powerful lessons that you learned, and what then would you give, what advice would you give to other business owners and leaders coming out of that?
Thank you for that question. And I think depending on the time, the trend, the year, our advice changes.
How much time do we have, right?
We're not here to be here for hours to talk about advice on what we need in business and life these days. But current day, my advice this year would be business owners, CEOs, entrepreneurs, you better start looking at your budgeting. I'm very strong in budgeting. I'm a big believer in pay the right people. To help your organization succeed, but also you can't be put under a bridge with sales either. And so for anybody out there, and I tend to myself coach, and it just blows my mind sometimes, but I get sometimes the company owners that, Chris, they'll have 50%, 100%, 300% more sales than my own company. And they are out there spending so quickly that they don't have a penny or a dime to their name. All right. So budgeting I'm very strong in budgeting. And by the way, how do you keep control of your overhead so that you don't go broke and you've got something back? So budgeting is very strong right now with our recession and inflation. It's a very hot topic. I also always recommend, and I'm still a very strong believer in loyalty, which means that, whether it's relationships, it's outside companies. It's not that I don't want everybody's business, but I don't need everybody's business. I tend to stay with the same people as long as they're achieving, their results. They're fair on cost. They're getting the job done. I feel like from year to year, we can work out our differences and keep going. So I'm still a very big believer in loyalty, whether you're talking about relationships or business.
Thank you. Some great lessons in there. Actually, it's a good segue into my next question, which is, I think you and I both agree that in addition to the things that you do and add into your business and life, there are things you want to think about purging from your business and or life. So what are some things that you do not want to do or do not want to have in your business or life at this time?
That's another one. You want to write another book about that?
Pick a couple.
Pick a topic and let's answer the question. Okay, Chris, what I would say is, for me, age equals wisdom. And, as a business professional and an individual with a very large network of friends, partners, love, fun. I've evolved into, I used to, and I still can, put out some great drama books because I have such a strong network of people. But at an older age and based on my work schedule, although I love my years of my friends and the parties and this, my time has to be valued a little bit more. So I would say current day, I'm more of a private, smaller circle of trust type individual because I just enjoy my privacy. And the other thing is it goes back to loyalty and trust. Be with like-minded people, all right? From working a life program for 18 years, the general idea, and I read people very well, but for the people of the world that they like to lie, to keep lying, that is the type I'm just going to walk away from. I'm going to walk away from the toxic people of the world. And you can have like-minded, it doesn't mean you get along all the time, but if you're locking heads with somebody all the time, remove them from your life, all right? It adds to a more peaceful home work environment. Get rid of the toxic people.
Very good. So get rid of the toxic people. Maybe focus on the more quality few. There's the expression that we are the sum of the 5 closest people to us. So it sounds like you kind of embrace that thing, right? Be aware or cognizant of the people that are in your life influencing you and that are taking your valuable time and energy. So
exactly.
Very
be
cool.
careful out there.
So this will be my last question, and we'll turn it over to you. I know you're a successful CEO of your own staffing business, but you are also an author and an influencer, a leader, a thought leader for the media. So specifically, what advice would you have for entrepreneurs or thought leaders in terms of the media these days and their own branding?
So first and foremost, Chris, you're asking me a loaded question, but that's so radical and like you.
I know that.
And with any answer, the first thing that comes to mind for me personally is from having media connections is the media is a job. It's not perfect. They do make mistakes, and there are good people in the media. When I think of media personally and as a business professional, I truly believe for myself, the media doesn't make your success. Your success comes from yourself, all right? They can promote it, they can market you, but your success comes from yourself. That's how I believe. On a positive note, with the media, especially the last couple years, there's been some dynamic magazines, and there's media companies. We're sitting at the Jeff Crilley studio today, and it's amazing. So there's some wonderful media companies out there to brand and promote, whether it's yourself, your businesses. I'm a big believer in that. So bravo. And this message doesn't go to the media that have helped me. But I have seen and I felt the negative part of the media, okay? And the negative part comes over here. And I don't know, Chris, if we call this the paparazzi or who we blame this for. But truly the media and the media story with Brad Pitt and litigation 2020, it was a cover-up story. And the problem I have with doing that to anybody out in this country is this, all right? My naive brain always thought if you had something going on, especially when you're in the courthouse, I always thought that the media would report 2 stories until I went up against Brad Pitt. The media was very biased. They literally, Chris, those media stories that went out 2020, a protective order with the courthouse was already broken, which means from a legal perspective, those stories couldn't have gone out. But anytime you copy paste a story and you change my name around and it went from textbook moron to most stupid female in the country, most gullible, and the names keep rolling. And from a legal perspective, what that's called is slander and defacement. So you feel a little victimized, not only by celebrity Brad Pitt and the general denials, which were lies, because him and his organization knew for years about the fan collections in that case, all right? So I got the lies, And we're not here to go do the Brad Pitt interview, but let's keep this short. 2023, we have a lineup of media lies. The worst lie you can give a company owner and an individual is this, and we'll say this lie. A member of Brad Pitt's team called the California media in 2021, said he apologized and he refunded the money. And Chris, it's a lie. And it disgusts me that in this country, we live with all these cover-up stories, lies, and then what happens? So current day, KD staffing, KDC making a difference, we have undergone a lot of company damages. The company damages are not going to go away overnight. The only thing they do have, Chris, they have a very strong company owner that by week, by month, and by year, we're going to overcome this.
Okay. And I knew it was a loaded question, and I knew this, affected you personally as well, but I thought it was a message that you needed to share in some way. So I thank you for trying to give, professional, balanced answer. And again, there's great media, there's not so great media. So like every other part of your business, you pay attention to that. And
my best advice to the media in 2023 is, instead of name calling me and skipping my storyline, we should probably focus on that honest statement from Brad Pitt. And then, oh, by the way, it makes me very sad and disgusted to have worked at a government level for over a decade. And now, Chris, what I can report is a list of the fan victims that hid from the media because they don't want to be made fun of. And then, oh, by the way, those fan collections are worse current day. And I feel like if the media had reported an honest story, we would have gotten that cooperation and we could have fixed something for both the celebrities and the fans. So it disgusts me. Let's move on.
We can take it back
on
to the 5 closest concept.
Yes.
Is keep the media and media people close to you that serve you and are positive as opposed to negative. So, okay, appreciate you sharing all that. I appreciate you playing along with my disruption and takeover.
So Chris, Lee, let's talk about your story.
Okay, so I'll give you the short version. As you mentioned, I am a productivity and performance coach, an author, and a speaker. My MTP is to level up the entire planet one rock star at a time. So that's my MTP. So I worked in corporate technology for a long time, and I studied and worked very hard to become an expert on productivity processes and strategies. And that led to me writing my book, Less is the New More, which is the theme is how you can work less, but truly get more done of what matters and still have work-life balance. And that's a theme that's still very, very useful in this day as much as any. Well, and also I coach and speak on those things to entrepreneurs, industry leaders, and their teams.
And I think I'm in love with your book,
Well,
Chris,
thank you.
and your mindset. And so a little bit more, I know you're a business consultant. You're my own personal business coach. You're an author. But just tell our viewers a little bit more about your background and what you do.
Sure. So I help frustrated leaders get ahead finally and start winning by leveling up their performance and that of their teams by using my Rockstar framework, because everybody's frustrated, everybody's doing more with less instead of less with more. So I want to turn that on its head and make it work, and there are ways to do that. But that's what I teach or coach on, but that's only one aspect on it, is the strategies. It has to start with mindset, which we've talked about or mentioned a couple times already. You need to have a good attitude or mindset, because if you don't get untwisted from that, then you'll never move forward or get to your next level. So very important part of the whole coaching process. And the third component is accountability. So I work with some amazing, talented people like yourself. Mm-hmm. They know how to do their job, but they come to me when they recognize that they need help with accountability. So helping them actually launch their goals and visions, to be with them to work through roadblocks when they happen, and to get them to the finish line. So that's an essence of what I bring to you as a coach.
And I love that. And it seems like and I'm trying to make a light note of this, we are still feeling the fallout on the pandemic years. Would you agree, Chris?
I absolutely agree. And I think the health and COVID virus sort of aspects and discussions around that are a great metaphor for the issues with business health. I think it's become a business health pandemic coming out of that, because there are key health indicators for business that have been compromised or weakened. We all know about the workforce problems. Also, supply chains have been impacted, and even the nature of your markets, their demographics, and their behaviors. So all of those are business health indicators that are now an issue. And I think it's hugely important that we focus on those, spend the time to get our business health in shape, to become resilient. And those who do that will thrive, and those who don't will still be weak and struggling coming out of it. Even when things get better, they will be in a weakened state with low resilience and struggling to get ahead or survive.
Agreed. Another loaded question for you. There's a lot of talk about the business loans, the pandemic loans, the high amount of debt, and debt stress. So what would be your advice, or what's your current advice for the status that we're in current day?
Okay, well, be professional and not turn this into a Twitter discussion or argument or political. But I agree with you. I think it's safe to say that, this kind of debt could be kicking the problem down the road. So loans are intended to let you borrow against future success or growth. They're not intended to be a bailout, because when you do a bailout or a Band-Aid, then you're just kicking the can or the problem down the road. And I feel the same way with government bailouts that we've done, and recently with the banks, because there are business problems, there are fundamental flaws that need to adjust and work themselves out. So if you just bail out, then you throw good money after bad and push the adjustment down the road. And that's true whether it's a big company or true with small business. So I think, to your prior point, you need to be very fiscally or financially responsible with your business at this time, not take major risks, but prepare, work on your health, pay attention to your ROI. So don't retreat into a hole, but make good decisions, watch your ROI. Don't take on debt that is just going to be a problem down the road.
Thank you, Chris. And what about trends? What kind of trends and new challenges are you dealing with in 2023?
Yeah, so a lot of things. But I think the main one that I've got my eye on is the disappearance of the middle. And that's happened in society, and it's been happening in business for a while, and I think it's getting more obvious or pronounced. It's no longer viable to just be competent or hard work. I don't think anyone believes that the key to success anymore is hard work. Many people work hard, get laid off, don't get promoted, don't succeed, okay? And part of that problem is that the middle is going away. So you have the big performers that are taking most of the business, and everybody else is left struggling for the scraps. So you need to be in that 20 of the 80-20 mix, or even higher. You need to be in that top if you're going to succeed. You can't just be competent anymore. You can't just be okay or mediocre. So I think that is a definite trend we're seeing, because the middle is going away. There's no comfortable middle ground that you can kind of sit there and do okay and be competitive.
Agreed. So any strategies that you personally had to change up?
Absolutely. You've heard me mention the term rock star a couple of times.
Yes.
And there's a reason for that. So, as I said, you cannot afford to just be mediocre or just get by. You truly need to be a rock star. And that's true whether you're a team, because good teams are made of rock stars. It's not because of a rock star process. And good leaders and companies are those who create a culture and environment that can foster that kind of growth or capability. So I want to help people and their teams be the best rock stars that they can in whatever they do. So it doesn't mean they have to be on stage singing, but it means be a rock star in what you do. And this is true whether it's a company, whether it's a team, an individual, it all matters. You need to, again, be that rock star performance to be competitive in the current market and century, honestly. So that sounds a bit over the top, but it doesn't make it any less true. And I've been able to systemize some strategies in my program to be able to achieve those things.
Thank you, Chris. And the last question I've got, if somebody's looking for business coaching, if any of our viewers are trying to contact you, how do they get a hold of you?
Thank you. So if this hits you or scares you a little bit, and it probably should, some of it, then I urge you to at least take some kind of action. So just reach out to me and let's start the conversation. So there's various ways we could work together, from one-on-one coaching, team coaching, to things like workshops. So let's have a talk, get together, and see what could be possible and powerful for you and your company or team. So I think my contact information will pop up here somewhere, but I'm on LinkedIn as That Chris Lee, and also you could find me at thatchrislee.com. So private message me on LinkedIn or somewhere, or get on my calendar and let's start the conversation.
Thank you, Chris, for coming today. And
thanks again for having me.
Yeah. Have a great day.
Letting me take over. Thank you. You too.
Love it. All right.